Good evening. Welcome to Jazz After Dark. How you doing out there? Look, it's an old-fashioned, done up quite nicely. You know, I misspoke the other day. I said it was the Whistle Pig bitters, but it was actually Woodford Reserve. These were the guys, they sent me a 40-year-old, not 40-year-old alcohol, but when I turned 40, they sent me a little kit. I had a bunch of stuff in it there, just free. So did Whistle Pig. Now, they did too, but this was their, they sent a syrup, they sent a couple bottles of Whistle Pig, and their own bitters. But this is Woodford Reserve Spiced Cherry Bitters, bourbon barrel aged. So we've got that in the old fashioned with the rest of the Clyde Maize. Turns out to be a favorite here in the neighborhood. We've got our orange peel and, of course, our Luxardo Maraschino Cherry. How you doing tonight? Hope all is good. Can I tell you a quick story? I messed up. Me and my daughter, Haley, baby Jazz, if you've ever had a chance to speak with her, we made crab legs, stunk up the whole house. My wife can tolerate anything on this planet besides the smell of seafood, in particular crab legs. Drove her nuts. She ran into the back bedroom, closed the door and everything. So I said, oh, my fault. You know what I mean? I opened up all the windows, we turned the fans on and stuff, and I took Fabuloso, opened it up, put it in front of a fan, and then I took like my cologne spray and I just started spraying it everywhere. Well, then that about killed us all. Our throats about, closed up. So we went from one extreme to the other. I don't know why I'm telling you that, but this is the kind of stuff that, share a little insight into the life here of me making videos at home for Jazz After Dark. You ever heard me say, think of your personal finances and approach them like a public company? I've gotten some grief for that in the past, and that's fine. You don't have to agree, but think about a public company like Apple. What do they do generally to shore up their company and make the most for them? Besides marketing, right? So the marketing, they have a product they're selling. We don't, as individuals, we generally don't market stuff besides ourselves, and we go get a job, earn some income, or start a business or whatever. So let's put that part aside. But what does Apple do, and really any company? Apple just happened to do it really well. They raise money when they can, not when they have to, unless you're Bed Bath & Beyond, right? Some companies don't make it, but otherwise, they raise money when they can. When interest rates were super low and they could issue corporate debt for genuinely pennies on the dollar, right? I mean, interest rates we've never seen in life. Well, they had a big pile of cash. They didn't need the debt, but they issued a ton of debt because it was so cheap and they had no real need for it. But they said, well, we've got all this cash. The debt is super cheap. We'll just go ahead and take on the debt because what? They can. So I always tell people that with their personal finances. Now, you don't have to like debt, but when debt is cheap, like it was and we may never see again, then you take on that debt if you were considering it, and don't use your cash, right? Now, I get it. Some people don't like payments and everything like that, and that's up to you to decide. But what an opportunity, one thing to do. Now, the other side of that, where I want to go with this, is what happens when you think times are going to be tough? What if you're in tech and you notice your job is, they're laying some people off? What if you're in real estate and you notice, it's getting a little slow out there? What if you do mortgages? What if you're in the general banking industry? Things like that. What if you're in human resources, right? If the economy's slowing down, we don't need as many people around here to take care of the HR department, right? So think of those things. What would you do? You would maybe hold on to a little bit of cash, maybe reinvest in yourself, education, build up your own personal thing. Maybe you were thinking about starting a picture frame making business and you might consider picking up that a little bit. Maybe you were going to teach English as a second language, and so you need to brush up on your skills there. The point being that if you handle it like public companies, you don't find yourself without cash. You don't find yourself without an opportunity in all environments. You don't find yourself in a pinch, right? Or too much debt, you're leveraged to the hilt. Now, I'm talking generally about most companies out there that have survived the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm going to go over a few here in a second. So now, that's a general overview. Let's go another layer deeper. how can you see what companies are doing with their money now? Well, every quarter they release their earnings, and it's a lot of gobbledygook. I get it. You probably don't want to read it. But then they have a phone call. Every company has a phone call, and they invite you, shareholders, anyone that wants to dial in, to be on that phone call, sometimes a Zoom meeting, and they read a transcript to you. None of it is ad lib. It is completely written down, transcribed, and some of the questions are, but then it's presented to the public. And you can go on any company's website and you can read their transcripts and see, how do they feel about the economy? Now, who would you want to track? Would you want to track, let's say, a company like, what is it called? Crocs. Do you really care if Crocs is selling more rubber shoes or not? Maybe not. Like, how involved, entranced? How involved are they in the global market? Not really. They can have a bad quarter and the economy doesn't care. Now go to somebody like UPS or Walmart. If Walmart has a bad quarter and they tell us sales are down and we expect them to be lower, okay, well, they deal with a lot of people. That means we as a society are going shopping less. It's a fair argument to make. If you look at UPS and they go, we're just shipping less. I don't know what to tell you. People don't ship as much. We stop buying stuff. We stop returning stuff. We stop producing stuff to sell to other people that want to buy our stuff. You get where I'm going with this? That's a big deal. That's a health measure of the general economy. So you can break this down into different categories too. So what I want to do, without further ado, I went through a whole bunch of transcripts. And what I did is I said, well, let's go to a couple different sectors. And maybe these stocks aren't people you've heard of or know about, but they're involved in their particular sector of the market. Whether it's a utility, a real estate company, a financial company, or bank, whatever. It could be consumer discretionary. You know all the sectors, the 11 sectors of the S&P. So let's dive into it. First up, Boston Properties. Now, these guys are not just in Boston. They do a lot in New York. They're more diverse than you would think, but these are commercial real estate. This is a commercial real estate company. So people that would, rent from them, they call this Class A, right? This is the top end of people that would rent from the buildings that they own. So this is, me and you aren't renting from them. So they say a bunch of stuff, and then they say commercial real estate markets are currently in a recession. Notice they are not predicting anything. They are saying we are currently in a recession. Many of our clients, these are the tenants, are experiencing a slowdown in growth or reductions in top-line revenue, their total sales. As a result, are focused on cost control, which means they're laying off people and focusing on the space that they use, meaning they're not renting more and more space. They're focused on just make do with what we have, okay? So Boston Properties looks at this, and what do you think they're doing with their money? Are they willing to go buy more property? Maybe. If they say we're currently in a recession, they find an opportunity, guarantee you they'll go buy it. But they're going to hold on to that cash in the meantime. If this were you individually and you said, well, my job is currently in a recession, therefore, I'm noticing that people around me are saving their money. They're not willing to expand and buy more stuff. Well, maybe I'll just hold on to some money for a little bit. Maybe I won't do that extra thing that I was going to do this year. All right. So that's in the real estate space. Now, the obvious one would be to go do UPS or FedEx and talk about them, but you probably know what they're doing. So what I did is I went one tier lower. What about when UPS and FedEx bring all these packages to their warehouses and stuff, who then usually takes them out to the final destination or somewhat final destination? Old Dominion, you've seen them. Come on, you've seen a truck trailer that says Old Dominion on it. It's a green with a sort of stamp looking logo. So here's what they said. Our team produced these results, which was a good fourth quarter for them, while facing many challenges during 2022, the end of 2022, which were primarily related to the unexpected slowdown in the domestic economy. Again, they're not predicting, they're saying our business was affected. The goods that we put on our trucks and go deliver, well, we did okay because we had higher margins, we made more, but we weren't sending as much stuff. And so that's concerning to them. They go on to say that maybe a cash position is not a bad position to be in for the foreseeable future. Okay, so they're also saying the same thing. I'm not trying to scare you, by the way. They could be totally wrong, but this is what they've decided. McCormick, this is always a fun one because people don't think of this one as an interesting business. This is the people that make you're probably more familiar with their spices, little McCormick bottles and stuff, but they own the brands Old Bay, pretty popular, and I think Frank's Hot Sauce, right? So they're a little bit spread out in that sort of condiment space. But anyways, they said, we expect that consumer to be under pressure in 2023. We can call it whatever you want, a recession, soft landing, we don't care. Consumers on the lower end, and they go on to say, not even the lower income spectrum. I'm talking about the bottom. I'm talking about the lower half of the income spectrum. So that's a big swath that they're talking about. They're going to certainly have less money and they're going to be careful with their budgets. So they're already predicting that the changes they see in their business right now, the consumer has yet to see. But when they do see it, they're going to change their buying habits. They're giving you a little heads up. Now, that's like getting information before you're supposed to know it, right? They're telling you what's happening. We are shipping less stuff. We are currently seeing some pressure in our spices, right? It's already happening. So kind of cool. All right, and the last one's an obvious one. Pulte Homes. This was a long one. I just shortened it up here. These guys say, they've discussed this in the past. This is not new news, but there's a given slowdown in the overall housing activity, and therefore we plan to dramatically lower our land spend in 2023. That means that they're not going to buy land to start thinking about how they're going to build properties. So they're already going to dial back their spending. There's other companies out there. Robert Half is the same thing. You can look at them. They're the biggest in their space. Same concept. So this is not everybody. By the way, not everybody at all. There's lots of companies that say, we see a slowdown, but we think it's temporary and things are going to be great. My argument was, if you think there's a slowdown coming, how do you personally adjust your finances? You may choose to hold more cash. Companies will, in turn, hold more cash. They will draw from their credit lines if they get in a pinch, right? They won't just do it for fun. But they'll draw from credit lines if need be. They'll shore up those credit lines, make sure the banks are going to keep it open for them, which is all fine at the moment. They will buy back shares. How can you buy back shares of your own company, of your own personal life? That's what I was talking about a minute ago. You reinvest in yourself. All the things you may have done, maybe now's the time you pick up that training, 1 hour a week or whatever it is. You're reinvesting in yourself just in case there may be an opportunity elsewhere outside of your business, right? Or whatever you do for income. Borrowing when you can, not when you have to. What happens if you spend all your cash right now and interest rates are going up? They're already up, right? We know it. So you decide, I'm not going to pay attention to this. I'm going to go buy the stuff that I want. I'm going to enjoy my summertime vacations. All of a sudden, you spent through your cash. Now what happens? Uh-oh, the economy slows down. Your job gets cut back or whatever. Now you need to draw from your credit lines and borrow. That's the worst timing ever because now you're getting charged more in interest. And if you need to extend your, say, your credit card limit or something, well, you're paying out the butt for that. That's over 20%. So that's why people will borrow when they can, not when they have to. Very quickly, you slip into that trap of going, I'll take whatever money I can get. Then if the economy does slow down and you had to kind of kick and borrow and scratch and everything through it, the economy gets going good again. And what happens? You're stuck paying off high interest debt. It's the worst feeling in the world. Everybody else is growing, having a good time, and you're paying off debt. So it's a long-winded way of saying, let's just see what companies do with their money. And maybe not everything is for you, but will it give you ideas, things that you can do and say, well, that's kind of interesting. They changed insurance providers. My company that maybe you work for, they switched 401k providers. They didn't do that because they found out so-and-so was dating their ex-husband. That's not how that works, right? Maybe once in a blue moon. They switched because there was opportunity, maybe to save a buck, maybe to give you more, whatever it was, there was opportunity. Keep an eye on things like that. I love covering this kind of stuff. So on the closing beat throughout earnings season, I do cover a lot of this. It's a free show, of course. You can come watch on our YouTube channel. It's live every day at 5 o'clock. All good? Was that interesting? I don't know. That was one I was debating doing, but I was already doing the work anyways. And I said, well, let's see if people like it. What do you think? Whew, that's good. All right. That's all I have for you. I will wrap it up there, and we'll see you again on the flip side. That's what old people say. That's where I'm going. All right. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for hanging with us.